Hello everyone, my name is Kumar and welcome back to my channel Kumar Programming. Today from our JavaScript Interview Question Answer series, we are going to cover difference between var, let and const keyword. This is a very basic question, but it's very important. I see that very experienced people are also getting confused while explaining variable scope. So don't worry, we are going to see the differences between var, let and const keyword thoroughly with the practical demonstration. Before we start, friends, there is a request to all of you. If you have not subscribed this channel, please subscribe it and press the bell icon so you will get the notification of all of my upcoming videos. And please like, comment and share to the social media, whatever platform that you are using, because your each and every subscription, like and share is going to give me a lot of confidence and moral support to create video like this for you. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Telegram, Tumblr, and Reddit. Everywhere my ID is kkyprogramming. So now without much more wasting time on it, let's start. So what is difference between var, let and const in JavaScript? Var, let and const are the keyword, or we can say these are the reserved keywords which is used to declare a variable in JavaScript. So mainly var, let and const are the keyword which is used to declare the variable in JavaScript. However, they are having a lot of differences on the basis of their uses. So now let's see what all the differences they have. Differences between var, let and const keyword are categorized by three categories: scope, hoisting and reassignment. So let's see first of all about the scope. Mainly we have three type of scope: global, local and block. However, in JavaScript, V8 engine categorized global scope into two parts. One is global and another one is script block, right? If we declare any variable at a global level, then that variable will be accessible by using our windows. But in the script scope, variable won't be able to accessible by using our window variable. So basically global and script, they are having the global scope, but logically they are segregated in two parts. For var type of variable, we have a global. For the let and const type of variable, we have script scope. If it's not getting clear as of now, don't worry. I'm going to explain you each and every scope during our practical demonstration. So as of now, just remember that var type of variable is having global and local scope, and let type of variable having script, local and block scope, and const type of variable having script, local and block scope. Okay, so this let and const are having scope for script, local and block, and var is having global and local scope. Okay, now first of all, let's understand about the scope. So suppose that here I have a application. Suppose that here I have a big application, and inside this application, if I declare a var type of variable x, okay, so here suppose that I have declared a var type of variable x, so that variable is going to be accessible throughout the application, okay, and that variable will be accessible by using our window, and that will be known as a global variable. However, we should avoid this global variable declaration. That I'll cover in our separate video where I'll explain about the best practices of the JavaScript. But here just try to understand that what is the scope or var variable. So here we have a big application and we have declared a variable x. So this x variable is accessible throughout the application because of it's having the global scope, right? And if inside this application we have created multiple script file. So here suppose that I have created a one script file and I have created a second script file, and here I have created a third script file. Okay, and if I have declared any variable here as a y, then this y variable is going to be accessible in this scripts. Okay, so this y variable is going to be accessible in all those scripts, and that is known as a script scope, right? Now let's understand about the local and block scope. So if suppose that in this script I have created a function here, suppose that here I have written a function, and inside this function, if suppose that I have declared a variable z, right? So this z variable is accessible throughout the function, okay? And this z variable won't be accessible outside of the function. So that is known as a local scope, right? So this z variable is having a local scope. Now if in this function I have created a if block, right? And inside this block, if I have created a variable like yum, so this m variable is going to be accessible inside this if block only, and this variable is not going to be accessible outside of this if block. So this m variable is having a block level of scope, right? So I hope that this all these scopes are getting clear. So here whenever we are declaring a variable with var keyword at the top level, then that is going to be by default as a global variable, okay, and that can be accessed by window. And whenever we create a variable inside our script for let and const keyword, then that variable is going to be having scope of script here, okay. And whenever inside this script we are writing any function and we are declaring any variable inside this function, then that particular variable is going to be having a local scope, okay. And inside this function, and if you have declared any variable inside the block, then that variable is going to have a scope of block level, okay. So friends, I hope that differences between scope is getting clear. However, it's going to be more clear once we will have our practical demonstration. Now let's see the second difference, which we have hosting. Okay, so I have created already a video on hosting and temporal dead zone. So if you have any doubts on hosting and temporal dead zone, so please go and watch that video first, so you'll get a clear idea about it. Okay, so here basically var, let and const all support for the hosting. However, we can see the hosting behavior for the var variable because it's having the default initialization. But in case of let and const, we cannot see the hosting behavior because they are declaring the variable without any initialization. So that's why for the let and const, there is a concept comes into the picture as temporal dead zone. Now the third difference which we have as a reassignment. So where variable can be declared once and then it can be reassigned as many times as we want. Okay. In the case of let also, this can be declared and it can be assigned as many times as we need. Okay. However, in case of constant variable is required to assign while it's declaration only, right? So whenever we are declaring any constant variable, we must have to assign the value inside the constant variable. And once the variable is assigned to the constant, then it cannot be reassigned further. Okay, so I'll show you all those things in our practical demonstration. So now let's flip to the Visual Studio and see all those differences with the practical. In our previous video, we have learned about shallow copy and deep copy, where we have seen how to create a shallow copy for array and object, and as well as we have learned about the deep copy, how to create deep copy for array and object both. And we have also seen that what is the limitation of JSON parse and stringify method once we are creating a deep copy, and we also see how to overcome that issue as well by using our recursive function. Now let's create another file over here, var underscore let underscore const.js file, and I'll give this file reference inside our index file. So here I'll create a new line by using shift alt down arrow, and then I'll comment this line by using command and forward slash. And now here I'm going to replace this file with our var let and const. Now let's go back to our var let and const.js file. First of all, let's see about the var type of variable here. So I'm going to create a variable as a var global. I'm just giving the name same like the scope as well. So here I'll give var global as 20, and I'm going to create a function over here, function as an example. And inside this function, I'm going to create another var type of variable is var local equal to 20. And then I'm going to create a if block, if, and inside this, I'm going to deliberately pass true. And inside this if block, I'm going to create another var type of variable, which is block. Okay, because this is the block, so here I'm going to block as equal to, right? Now, so whenever we declare any variable as a global, okay, if we are declaring any variable outside of the function, that is going to be declared as a global, and that global variable is going to be accessed via window. Okay, but whenever we are declaring any variable inside the function, so that variable is having a local level scope, and that variable is accessible inside this function only. Okay, and if we declare any var type of variable inside the block, that is also having access of local. Okay, so this block variable will be accessible outside of this if block as well. So if I see here console.log, and if I try to access this block variable over here, block, right, so this would be accessible outside of this if block, because var type of variable are having scope as a global as well as local. They don't have any scope for block, right? So if we declare this block variable inside the block, but still this is accessible throughout the function. Okay, now let me run this and show you, but before that let me call this function, right? So here I'll give a debug point, and also I'll give a debug point here as well. Now let's run this. So I'm going to run this application by using our Chrome browser. Let's inspect this first of all and go to the source. Now let me make it small so we can see the complete picture here. Now let me rerun this once again. As of now, you can see here at the right side, here we have a scope, right? And inside this scope, we have only global, right? And let me move a bit here. Now, inside this global variable, you can find this our global, right? So let me show you where we have global. See, here we have global. So this global variable is declared inside our global scope, right? But whenever we call this function and we went inside this function, then you can see here there is another scope got created as a local, and this block and local, both of the variable is going to be come inside our local scope. So there is no separate scope is created as a block scope for the block variable, because both variable are having local scope, right? And you can see also both of the variables are assigned as a default value as undefined. Okay, now let's run this. See, now this local variable got assigned value with 20, and now here block variable also got assigned with 30. And if you want to console this after this block as well, so it's going to work absolutely fine, and it's going to console the value for the block which is 30, right? So it's getting clear. Our var type of variable is having global scope, and whatever the variable are declared inside the function are having the local scope, and there is no block level scope for the var type of variable. It's very simple, isn't it? I hope this is getting clear. One more thing, if we have created any variable as a global, then we can access this variable anywhere in the application by using our window. So here we can write our console log. So here I can just write global, and I can write here windows dot global. Okay, now let me run this and show you once again. So here I'll rerun this. Let me just disable all the breakpoint for now. Run this, and if you go to the console, here we can see the global as a 10. So we can access this global variable by using our window dot global variable. However, this is possible for only var type of variable. If we try to access for our let and const by using our window, so they won't be able to accessible because they belongs to the script scope, right? Now the second difference which we have is where type of variable support for the hosting, right, with the default initialization. So now let's see in the code. Now here, if you see here, we have declared a variable as a local. I'll remove this declaration from local here, and I'll do it at the bottom. Okay, where local, right? So you can see here I'm declaring my variable at the bottom of this function, and I'm assigning this variable at the very top, and then I'm trying to access this local variable before its declaration. Okay, so now let me run this. Let me enable my all breakpoint here. Now rerun this. Now if you see, let me come to the inside this function block. Now see, we are at the very top of this function block, but if you see here, this local variable is already declared. See, this what happening, this local variable is going to be declared on top of the scope, and then it's going to be assigned the value as 20, right? So if I go one step further, so see here my local variable is getting assigned with 20 here, right? However, we have not declared it. See here, as of now this local variable is not declared, but indirectly because of hosting, this local variable is getting declared on top of this function, and then further it's getting executed, right? But in case of let and const, these variables are getting on top of that, but they are not having any default initializations. And also you can see here this block and local, both of the variable come inside the local scope. So in this way, this var type of variable support for the hosting with the default initialization as undefined. Okay, now let's see the third differences which we have. We can declare this our variable and we can reassign it multiple times, right? So what we can do here, we can declare our variable and then we can reassign this variable multiple times. Local equal to 30 and we can reassign this variable once again as 40 and there's no issues, right? So let me rerun this. So here you can see my local variable finally is getting printed as a 40 because this is the last assignment. So we can reassign the variable or var type of variable multiple times, as many times as we want. Okay. Now let's see about the let kind of variable. So what I'm going to do here, I'll mark it as for var, and for the time being, I'm just going to comment this line and I'll paste this line for let type of keyword here let, and I'll uncomment it, right? So here we know that our let type of variable don't have the global scope, they are having the script scope. Okay, so here I'll create a variable as a script, and here we have a let type of variable, and here I'm going to declare a variable as a let local inside this function. Simply I'm just changing my var type of variable to let type of variable to show you how they are having the different behavior. Yeah, now we are good. So see here we have a script variable at the global level. So this is going to be inside our script scope, and then after that inside the function we have created a local variable, and that local variable is having scope inside the function and that is accessible throughout the function, right? But if you see here, I have created a if block, and inside this if block I have created a block variable. Now in this case this let variable is accessible inside this block only. Okay, so this block variable is not going to be accessible outside of this block statement, right? If you try to access this block variable over here, it's going to give an error, right? So for now let me just remove all the breakpoints and let's put some new breakpoint over here. Now let's rerun this. Now here you can see first of all let's see this script variable. If you see here we have a script type of scope, and in this scope script variable having value 10. Okay, still this is a global because that is accessible throughout all the scripts file, but however in our Chrome V8 engine that is segregated separately. And now further you can see this local variable is having inside our local scope. See here, and if you see here earlier for the var type of variable we have seen like this default declaration is going to be initialization with default value as a undefined, but here you can see value unavailable, right? So here in case of let and const there is no default initialization while declaration of the variable. Now if we come to the block level, now we are in the block level. So here you can see there is another variable created inside the block which value is unavailable for now, right? So now it's being clear, let type of variable support for the script scope and local scope and block scope. Okay, and further if we want to access this global window.script, it won't be accessible, right? So see here we will get the error block is not defined. So if you see here we are getting the error because this block is not accessible outside of this block, right? If block, so we are not able to access this block variable outside of this block. That is the expected behavior from our let type of variables. And we remember that always try to use let and const while declaring your variables. Okay, very few cases are there where we have to declare our var type of variable, but that are very limited. That I'll explain you in another video where I'll explain about the best practices of the JavaScript. But for now here you can see what kind of scope is being supported by the let keyword. Now similarly I'm going to show you for the const keyword as well. So here I'll just copy these things. For now I'm going to comment this and I'll here put as a const. Okay, right? And here I'm going to replace all my variable as const. So const is going to have a very similar kind of behavior which we have let. And one thing that I also forgot to mention, that this let variable can be declared once and it can be reassigned multiple times. Okay, now so here this is const and I'll put this as a const as well, and this block variable I'll put also as a const. Okay, so here we are getting as an error, see declaration must be initialized. So whenever we are declaring any const type of variable, we must have to initialize that variable at the same time. Okay, so here we have to initialize the variable as a 20. So now this local variable is assigned, And once we have assigned value to the const variable, then it cannot be reassigned further. Okay, and block type of variable is not going to be accessed outside of this if block. Okay, now let's rerun and see this. Now see here, as of now we have a script, so this script variable comes inside the script scope. And now let's move next. Here we cannot get the window.script. So if you see here in the console log, we are getting global as a undefined, because let and const type of variable are not part of global, so they won't be able to accessible from the window. Okay, so we can directly get it access by like this script. So now it would be accessible. Let me rerun this. Now if you see here inside the console, we are getting the global value as 10. Right, now let's go to the source here. And now if you see, now we are inside the example function. So here there is a one more scope is created as a local, right? And this local variable is getting assigned to the local scope, right? And now if we come inside this our block scope, so there is another block scope is created, and this block variable is getting assigned to the block scope, right? And if we try to access this block variable outside of the if block, then this block variable won't be accessible and we will get the error. Now let's see. Here you can see in the console we are getting uncaught reference error. Block is not defined. Okay. And one more important thing that I would like to mention over here, which is const and let keyword support for the hosting with no initialization, right? So what does it mean? Now if you see here we have our local scope, and if I just move this local scope at the bottom, right, and I'll put it here inside the block scope. Okay, now let me rerun this and I'll show you what I'm trying to explain here. See, if you see here, our breakpoint didn't reach out to the local, but still if you see in the local scope we have this local variable, right? So what exactly is happening? This local variable is going to be declared at the top of their scope, right? So this local variable declared over here, that's the reason it came inside the local scope. But here, if you see, its value is unavailable. So there is no value assigned to it. And if we try to access this const variable, and suppose that if we try to access this local variable before its actual initialization, local, right, so we won't be able to get the value for this local variable because its actual initialization is going to be here, right? And we are trying to access this local variable before its actual initialization. However, it doesn't have any value for now. Okay, so let's rerun this and now we can see here. Go to the next. Now see here, we are trying to access this local variable before its actual initialization. So actual initialization, it's not done it. So however, this local variable is already declared. That's the reason we are seeing inside our scope. But if you see here, my breakpoint is not reached out to at this position. And this is happening because of this local variable is getting declared on top of the scope, but it's not initializing any value. But there was a different case in case of var variable. This was getting assigned with a undefined value, right? So that's the reason we can see the behavior of hosting for the var type of variable, but we cannot see the behavior of hosting in let and const keyword. Okay, and once it's being declared on the top and we are trying to access these variables before its actual initialization, then there is a concept comes into the picture, which is temporal dead zone. So here we have a virtual declaration, and so time between virtual declaration and actual initialization is known as a temporal dead zone. Okay, and inside the temporal dead zone, if you try to access this variable, we will get the uncaught reference error. So here you can see we are getting as a uncaught reference cannot access local before initialization. Okay, so friends, I hope that it's been clear the differences between var, let and const keyword, about their hosting, scope and reassignment, right? And now you would be able to explain to the interviewer as well in detail. And believe me, if you are explaining in detail to the interviewer, then you are going to have a very good impact to the interviewer. an interviewer will get to know that you are having a very deep knowledge. So friends, this come to the end of this video, and still you are having any doubt, so please leave comment section and definitely I'll try to get back to you on this as soon as possible. And friends, if you have learned something from this video, then please don't go without subscribing this channel, and please like, comment and share to the whatever social media platform that you are using and to the people who really need it. So that's all for the day. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, take care and keep learning.